Hi everybody. So today we're going to be making a simple bench shoe rack. So I love dual purpose projects, so let's get into it. So for this project you'll need quite a bit of timber. I've prepared a detailed supplies list of things that you'll need. You can download the plans as well in the description. So I started with, first of all, with making 2 centimeter cuts for the half lap joints for both the legs and the bench support. So this is how they were turning out. I had to do a bit of filing to make sure the cuts were just flat enough. So next up I moved on to assembling the legs. So here the clamps are really handy to help hold things together, and like as always, make sure you're just checking square to make sure things are lined up correctly. Once I put the legs together, I did a dry fit of the parts to see how everything would look together. Then I moved on to painting all the pieces before assembly. I think this would have been more efficient, in that there's some nooks and crannies that I would not have been able to access if I had done this after I had assembled the pieces. So I'm using 2 different colors, so the paint is really optional, but yeah, I think it adds a bit more pizzazz to the piece. Black and Mahogany sounds like a band name, or even a movie or something. Black in Mahogany. So once everything had dried out, I moved on to assembly. So now things are getting a bit more exciting. You can actually begin to visualize how the piece will turn out. So I started with putting the shoe rack. I started with the attaching the end pieces first, and then the middle one. I was really eyeballing it here, and further down the project it came to cost me, but yeah, you can see how once the shoe rack is in place, it begins to look more and more like a real piece of furniture. So I was using here 1.5 inch MDF screws. So once the shoe rack was done, the next big thing would be to begin installing the bench support. I'm not sure if that's the correct name, but please feel free to educate me in the comment section. But I think I name things based on the function they do for me. So in this case, yeah, bench support is the name I'll go for now. But essentially this is where I'll begin attaching the bench slats. It was a really awkward angle to try to get those screws in. So here I'm still using the 1.5 inch MDF screws. And you'll notice there's a bit of a half lap joint here that I made earlier that then attaches to the bottom. You can really see how much of a struggle it was to get those screws in. I think there's some bits that I used specifically for these types of situations, but I don't know if they're available locally. So to wrap up this part of the build, I gave the piece a bit of a test to see how sturdy it was. Another particularly enjoyable part of the build was attaching the bench slats. So here the process was essentially to pre-drill some holes and make them slightly larger than the screw head so that you could actually countersink them. The idea here is that further down the line I'll use wood filler to hide out the screw holes. In other projects I've been using dowels to hide the holes, but I think that's not the most efficient approach. So for this one I'll be using wood filler, which I think is much more efficient and faster. Can something be fast but not efficient, or efficient but not fast? So here you begin to see where eyeballing it began to cost me, so that it was really tough to try and get the bench pieces aligned correctly. But I think I was too far in, so I just decided to dig in. So from this view, you can actually see more clearly how wonky the bench planks are. And yeah, I think I'll just have to leave it that. But the process of applying the wood filler is actually quite straightforward. So just smash it in to fill the holes, allow it to dry for 30 minutes and give it a light sanding to even out the excess. Definitely way faster than dowels and glue, and actually way less messier. So when you handle the the wood filler, it feels a lot like plasticine, like how they call it these days, Play-Doh. Only Play-Doh that hardens. So once it hardens is when you can do the sanding. The wood filler dries out pretty nicely, so you can just give it some sanding to clean out those rough patches. So I'll cover out these pieces with some paint later to just finish out the piece. And finally, the big reveal. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. So here you can see, once you cover the sanded wood filler, like you can barely notice where the screws go in. So I really enjoyed working on this project. I learned quite a bit. Don't eyeball shit. But yeah, so if you like this type of content, consider liking and subscribing for more of these types of videos. Also, you can download the free plans in the description if you'd like to build something like this for yourself. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next one.